Hi, I'm Joanne Allenbaugh with Pig Health Today, and with me is Dr. John Deen, who is a professor at the University of Minnesota. Dr. Deen, thanks so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure, thanks.
We're seeing kind of a disturbing trend in sow mortality, and I know you've been pretty vocal about this issue. Are there issues that you think producers and veterinarians could be working on right now?
My big message in discussions when they ask those questions is, not surprisingly from my history of working in the industry, is to emphasize more records and selecting more things to monitor. For instance, lameness, not when it's diagnosed at death or at culling, but when it starts occurring, and understand what's happening in the sow herd with that factor as well as other factors.
Well, along with that, lameness is a large issue. Another one that the industry is really concerned about is the pelvic organ prolapse. Are you seeing progress in that area?
We're not seeing the rapid increase that we've seen in other years, but we haven't come to the key factors involved in initiating the process. My thought, and it's only a thought, is that maybe it's not that certain sows are affected and other sows are not affected, but whole herds are affected, just with different levels of expression. And so we're starting to see more emphasis not on within herd analysis, but between herds and comparing high and low, preferably low herds even outside of the United States in areas where they have not seen this increase, surprisingly.
Dr. Deen, how important is employee training, and what kind of protocols do you think need to be included in that training?
Well, to answer the first question, of course, employee training is very important in a caretaker role, and caregiving or herdsmanship or whatever terms we want to give is an essential part of the sow herd. And so I struggle with how to train more than anything else. I cannot train my students through a lecture, through a slide set, even through videos is difficult. It's not until we have students side by side working through the problems in the herd that we start gaining that training and that experience. We also need to recognize that some employees are not given to identify early signs of disease, simply do not have some of those sensitivities, and we have to treasure those people who can identify the behavior and attitudes of animals as they occur, especially during early stages of disease.
Are producers becoming more aware about sow health and sow comfort?
I think that sow comfort is entering the discussion, and it drifts over from our dairy colleagues. One of my recommendations in examining a sow herd over the last while has been to include dairy veterinarians because they understand especially the challenges of lameness, but overall creating environments for animals that address some of their basic needs. One of the lessons that I've learned over time is taking some of the rules from welfare evaluation and applying it to sow survivability. And that's looking at the behaviors where sows are compromised. And my list includes floors, we see lameness, temperature, we see sows not eating, not moving around and not breeding in many cases. And we also see challenges from other sows. And those seem to be the big three challenges in welfare, and addressing each of those correctly is yielding results.
What are some emerging issues you're seeing right now in terms of sow health and sow care?
On the most part, I feel like we've been struggling with the same factors that we have 20 years ago or 30 years ago in my case. I think we have to recognize that there is a balance between the productivity expectations of the sow and the ability for that sow to survive. going back to 30 years ago when we introduced more productive sows into the herd, the answer back was when we said these sows are more likely to fail, to die, to need to be culled because of the extra challenges to the sow under that expectation. The answer back was you have to increase your capabilities in sow care. And that's been a message over time. And I think we keep on challenging ourselves in the area of sow care to balance, again, the extraordinary performance of our sow herd.
What do you think the sow of the future looks like? Let's just say 20 years down the road. What does that female look like in U.S. herds?
I think we're going through some of the same changes in sow productivity as we did in growing pig productivity as far as measures and the like. We have a certain amount of growing pig spaces. We fill those spaces, and our expectation is to produce a healthy animal at the end that meets the packer's specifications. We haven't really entered into the same top hog metric for sows. So I think we're going to something called a top sow, a sow that manages its demands and survives in the herd and is retained until a gilt is justified to replace it, and it goes off and enters the cull sow market and gets top prices for a cull sow. So the sow of the future is one that meets 6-7 parities and goes into the market. And more, I'm attracted to what the human health area has done to address mortality rates and longevity concerns, especially in countries other than the U.S. They talk about something called disability adjusted life years. And it has changed the attitude from looking at simply moving an average to looking at lost years or lost parities in the case of sows, and the effect it has upon society, the effect it has upon, in our case in sow herds, in productivity. And it really is a measure of opportunity costs. The opportunity to have a sow that reaches 6 parity, that is sold into the marketplace at a premium. And that is similar to a top hog or a pig that meets expectations after entering grow finish or wean to finish facility. And so if we look at it in that way, I think we're grossly underestimating the cost to the herd, the cost to the income stream of a sow herd, the cost to the capacity of the sow herd to produce high quality piglets. And as we examine that more and more, I think the current estimates of $500 or even $1,000 losses due to early exit, due to mortality or culling, may actually be an underestimate. And I look forward to that discussion and moving into an opportunity cost model in the sow herds as well as the growing pig herd.